Anyway, okay, we got the slides. Cool, so yeah, what I want to talk about today is 1 gigabyte blocks for unstoppable applications. So essentially, Celestia's North Star is trying to scale block space dramatically. And we think that that's really what's going to be needed for us to build and deliver on the true promise of blockchains and cryptocurrencies. So for those of you who don't know what Celestia is, it's a modular consensus and data network powering unstoppable applications with full stack customizability. So you can think of Celestia as an L1 that's designed in a modular way such that it's more scalable, more flexible, and also more decentralized and verifiable than L1s that have come before it. And this modularity gives developers like superpowers, makes their applications unstoppable and customizable. So the first thing I want to sort of do is just recap sort of where we've been. So about a year ago in October 2023 is when Celestia mainnet went live for the first time. And in our view, it really was the dawn, the official sort of like starting point of the modular era of blockchains. And the reason for that is that Celestia was the first L1 to support data availability sampling, which is a 0-to-1 innovation in blockchain technology that enables light nodes, so anyone can verify the chain directly on their phone, and it also basically solves the scaling trilemma where we can increase the block size without causing greater centralization. So Celestia is kind of like ushered in this new era, and it's been a pretty exciting first year. My clicker doesn't seem to be working. There we go. So in 1 year since launch, we've had a bunch of really exciting milestones, which I'm just going to unpack quickly, but you can see some of them here. Should I just point? There we go. So the first big milestone is we've had 21 chains launch in production on top of Celestia. So we have a whole cross-section of the entire industry up here. We have general purpose rollups like Eclipse or Manta. We have a bunch of DeFi rollups like Derive, Orderly, Avo. We have gaming and NFT chains like Agent 8 or B3 or Forma. And then we have some social applications and AI applications like Ham and Internal. So there's been kind of this, really exciting kind of like first batch of use cases that have launched. Oh, can I go back? And then we've seen since the beginning of the network it was a little bit quiet at first. And then we've seen this sort of like exponential growth in demand for data availability over time. And I think this is kind of like, just demonstrates where we think the market is going, that like there's going to be continued growth of this scale of demand for block space. And so it's our job to sort of like scale to meet that demand so that anyone can deploy scalable, cheap applications for end users. This clicker really sucks. And the market share of Celestia has also grown over time and is climbing, and hopefully sometime next year we will sort of take over 50% of the DA market. And we're not just a market leader in terms of like DA consumption and demand, but also in terms of security. So we take the security of Celestia very seriously. And L2Beat recently published a tracker called DABeat that helps to kind of like demystify the security properties of data layers. And so Celestia has sort of really great qualities, especially when compared to the other options. And we continue to strive to improve that. We also published a roadmap that outlines our next sort of like milestones on the engineering side. So there's kind of 3 main tracks. One is about abundant block space, so we want to scale up to gigabyte blocks. We want to make the blocks extremely verifiable, so we already have light nodes. We want to make it so that anyone can run a light node on any device without any technical knowledge, and then we get verifiability by default for end users. And then the last is we want to make the modular ecosystem really smooth for developer experience and user experience, because right now things kind of are fragmented and not very friendly in some ways. And so one of the features that we're working on there is ZK accounts, which will add the ability to route and kind of like settle tokens and state through the Celestia base layer. And the roadmap is not just like a theoretical thing, it's something that we're already actively shipping. So we have a Ginger upgrade that is coming to the network later this year. And it's like the first what we call doubling. So instead of Bitcoin, which has halvings, we have doubling, which is like when the block space doubles. Sort of like Moore's law, but for data availability. And so Ginger, which will hopefully land on mainnet in December, will double the throughput, and it will decrease the block times from 12 seconds to 6 seconds. And it allows for the increase of the block size to 8 megabytes. And once we get there, we basically have, we'll have 1.3 megabytes per second of data throughput, which is not very much in the grand scheme of things or where we want to go. But it is already basically on par with what dank sharding, the end game of dank sharding, or like the target is, except that it'll be live in December. In addition to that, we launched a testnet, internal testnet, where we hacked together a lot of the scaling techniques that we plan to roll out in the future on mainnet. And we're able to achieve, I thought I updated this, it's supposed to be 27 megabytes per second of data throughput, which is kind of like equivalent to 4 Solanas or like multiple Visa scale networks or hundreds of thousands of TPS, depending on like how you want to look at it. So this kind of gives you a sense of where the throughput of Celestia is going in sometime in 2025. On the Lightnode front, we were able to ship a Rust-based data availability client that can be compiled into WebAssembly and then deployed on front ends. So like in this case, in this tweet is the Lightnode is running in the Block Explorer. And the power of this, and we will also embed it into front-end UIs for dApps, into wallets, and browser extensions and things like that. And the power of this is that when an application integrates a Celestia Lightnode, that means that the user can actually like directly verify the application that they're using. So that they don't have to trust an RPC to know what the state of that application is and that everything is being executed correctly. And they don't have to, the RPC doesn't act as this sort of like centralized gateway. They can interact with the chain and the applications directly peer-to-peer, which is how the original vision of blockchains was always supposed to be. Like in the early days of Ethereum, there was a Mist browser that actually ran an Ethereum full node in the background. So we want to get back to that kind of cypherpunk vision for blockchains. God, this clicker's really bad. It just went. Okay. Nope. Wait, are you controlling it? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. So the last thing that I think was a really cool development in the last couple months was we shipped an integration with Succinct and Conduit. So Succinct has built this ZK VM called SP1 that is extremely flexible and performant. And they were able to basically ZK prove like OP stack chains. And we've also sort of, in combination with that, Conduit, which is a rollup as a service provider, has made it possible basically for anyone to one-click deploy a ZK rollup. It can use Conduit's like G2 super scalable sequencer. You can use Celestia for super scalable DA. So like, to me, this has always been like the end game for the modular vision, which is that people should be able to deploy a secure, decentralized, interoperable chain like on demand. And it's crazy how close we are getting to making that a reality, thanks to all the innovation in the modular ecosystem. So looking ahead, there's a bunch of like more exciting applications that are coming to launch on Celestia. So the first one, specifically what we're excited about are these alt VMs. So we think that a lot of the chains that have been deployed to date have been, kind of just following the same pattern of EVM rollups, that don't really take advantage of the fact that the modular stack gives you the ability to choose novel and experiment at the execution layer. And so Eclipse is a team that we've been working with closely that is building and has actually launched the first SVM rollup. So the Solana ecosystem is very much going multi-chain, and we're excited to see the ecosystem there grow. We have Movement, which is basically doing the same thing but for the Move ecosystem from Aptos and Suite. And we also have Initia, which is doing the same thing but for the CosmWasm and Cosmos SDK ecosystem. So it's very exciting to see that these like all VMs come to market, and this kind of thing is really only possible on, you wouldn't be able to launch something like this on Ethereum because the blobs just don't have enough scale. So we're trying to like unleash this innovation in the modular ecosystem by providing abundant throughput. So with that, I want to transition to sort of like the last part of this talk, which is what I mentioned earlier, which is this notion of unstoppable applications. And this is really the whole reason why we're building Celestia, and I think the whole reason why blockchains as a technology matter, is that they enable us to build applications that are unstoppable, meaning that end users can verify them, so they're secure and can't be manipulated by anyone. They are censorship resistant, meaning no one can like stop you from interacting with them. And they should also be unstoppable in the sense of, as I mentioned, being extremely scalable. Because I think we've built systems that are verifiable and censorship resistant, but never at scale. Like whenever we've had success with those applications, they end up kind of falling over when we try to onboard lots and lots of users. But I think like finally we're at this stage where we can truly build truly unstoppable applications for the first time, because all this infrastructure that's been being built since like 2008 when Bitcoin first came around is coming to fruition and maturity. And like crypto is a very, I would say, disruptive kind of cypherpunk type of that's like blockchains. The most important and most disruptive use cases of blockchains are going to be things that challenge the status quo and the current power structures, whether those are companies or governments. And so these applications have to be built on rails that enable them to be secure, even when there are like basically enemies out there that are trying to shut them down. So a couple of applications that are building on Celestia that I think fit in this category and show the future, this cypherpunk future vision of, can you go back, of what Celestia can provide is, one is Pay, which is a super exciting application. I encourage you guys to download it and try it out on your phone. And it's essentially private digital cash, which is really I would say the first use case that Bitcoiners and crypto people all over were most passionate about and interested in, except there was always pain points, right? Whether that was user onboarding, and Pay, they have an embedded wallet. You don't ever have to touch a seed phrase or worry about custodying your private key. It has client-side ZK proofs, so you are sending cash between people in a totally private way. And it's extremely scalable because it's a ZK rollup that's built on top of Celestia. So I think that this is like a use case that I think people kind of like have forgotten about, but to me is like one of the first ones. Like if we can't do payments, like one of the most simple applications, then clearly the infrastructure that we build is not ready. But what I'm saying is that I think we are finally at that stage. And I think Pay is, So another one that I'm very excited about is called Prism, which is solving end-to-end encryption. So this is probably something that people don't think about as a use case for blockchains, but any messenger or even when you're visiting a website, basically built into the trust model of how you verify that the data's been, that your connection is actually secure, is you have what's called a certificate authority, which is basically a centralized point of source of truth that tells you what the counterparty's private key is. And the issue is that this is a very common way that governments surveil people, is they go to those centralized authorities and have them swap out and fiddle with those public keys like the registry, and then they can man in the middle, like eavesdrop in their conversations. And what's amazing is that on Prism, you can build what's called key transparency, which is a way to remove that trusted intermediary from these systems and have truly end-to-end encrypted, unstoppable messaging, and it goes far beyond messaging to even like just browsing the web and making sure that you're connected to the right server. And that's it. I think that's why we had this motto of come and take it, with a hand holding a light node running on a phone, because to us, light nodes are a symbol of the fact that Celestia gives you sovereignty and power that you can hold in your hand, and that no one can take away from you. And this is the cypherpunk future that we want to create. And so, yeah, hopefully you guys resonate with this notion of unstoppable applications. And if you guys want to talk about anything that I presented, I'll be hanging out outside. Thank you very much.